Hi everyone, this is Juliet, and I am going to be presenting today's iVisionMobile workshop, where we are going to discuss the touchless kiosk, both setup and implementation. So today's agenda, we're going to look at a couple of different things. First off, we're going to discuss the mobile campaign and kiosk setup. We're not really going to go through all of it, but we are going to just talk about a few tips and tricks to keep in mind so that it makes setting up the touchless feature nice and smooth. Then we're going to get into actually setting up the touchless feature, and then do a deeper dive on some of the components of that and what it means, such as the QR code scan actions, if you choose the SMS way versus the web method, as well as the QR code placement on a kiosk and editing the responses both for SMS or the web opt-in method. So the first thing that we're going to discuss are the mobile campaign and kiosk setup. So a couple of things that we've found since we've launched the feature, just to keep in mind about the touchless feature. First off, what kind of mobile campaign do you need for the touchless feature? Well, good news. The touchless feature allows both joins and check-ins. So whichever mobile campaign you are going to use, you're more than welcome to add the touchless component to. Does the campaign have to be created before setting up the touchless feature? Yes. Because the touchless feature is intrinsically linked with the kiosk, as with any kiosk setup, you need to make sure that you've got your campaign set up before you can go ahead and create your kiosk, and then you can set up the touchless component. And then, does the touchless feature require a tablet? Again, yes. Because the way the touchless feature operates to have a secure QR code appear so that the customers can scan it, it means you, one, need to have an interface that customers can see to scan the QR code, but they also need to have a constant connection to the internet so that that QR code can be updated as necessary for security purposes. One thing to keep in mind about that, if you're currently using a tablet and you're using our offline version of the app to display that, you would need to switch to the online version of the app in order to use that. The main thing here is, again, that QR code is going to be changing very often. So you want to make sure that you've got an internet connection at all times to be able to make that happen. The offline app is great if you've got some inconsistent internet issues because it'll cache all those numbers. But unfortunately, what that also means is that then your QR code can't update properly. So again, all you need to do is switch to the online app, and then you can use the touchless feature. With that in mind, we're going to look at my account here. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and created two different types of campaigns. I've got a mobile opt-in campaign, which is very simple. It's just quite literally a welcome text, thanking them for joining, and that's really all there is to it. Very simple. Then I have my loyalty campaign. Again, in terms of the setup, I haven't had to do anything extra. I created my interactive message welcoming them to the program and, reminding them to check in each time. And then I've set up my loyalty component. In this case, I'm doing a single-tiered loyalty program set to 10 check-ins. You can also do a multi-tiered program. It's completely up to you in how you design that out. But there's really nothing that needs to change. Once I have my campaigns created, then I can go in to my kiosks and design them as need be. Again, I have one for a mobile opt-in and I have one for loyalty. So very quickly, let's just look at my settings for my mobile program. As you see here, Again, I haven't done anything complicated. I've added my mobile opt-in, I've connected it to my campaign, and I've added the ability to redeem coupons on my kiosk. One thing to keep in mind here when it does come to the touchless component is it is built to allow for opt-ins or check-ins. It's not going to allow you to redeem offers. That would need to either happen through the coupon widget or through the kiosk. So just one thing to keep in mind there. Other than that, my setup is exactly the same as I would design out any other mobile opt-in kiosk. On my touchless side, again, my setup is very, very similar to what I would typically set up for an account. In this case, I am doing a loyalty program, and I've decided to use two separate buttons. I've got my data capture, which allows me to capture birthday information. And then I've just got a simple loyalty check-in button that just asks people for their phone number to check them in. So that, again, very straightforward. Currently, one thing that you'll want to keep in mind is the require sign-up feature. If you're going to use the touchless component, you want to go ahead and set it to no. The require sign-up is currently designed for the kiosk interaction. So on a kiosk, it can force customers to go ahead and use the join here button, but it's not going to work that way with the touchless experience. So the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and just select no. Now, the good news with that is you can go ahead and you can still collect information through this button. It's just it can't force them to use that button instead. And another thing to keep in mind as well is you can always use the target list and a trigger to funnel people who have not provided their birthday or any other piece of information that you might be trying to collect, and then use a trigger to automate that process to reach out to contacts, asking them to sign up or to provide that data or things like that. So it would just be a slightly different method, but you absolutely can continue to collect that information. The other thing to keep in mind is the instant reward. Again, this is a feature currently that works with the kiosk experience, not the touchless. So again, if you want to reward your customers for joining, it's very simple. Instead of selecting the instant reward option, all you need to do is add that coupon in to the 001 message, or you could create, again, a target list and a trigger if you prefer that sends it out to them. So there's a lot of different ways that you can still send out a welcome offer without having to use that component and then be able to use touchless as a result. Once you've got those components, again, those setups are not all that different. Now you can go ahead and create your touchless component. So let's go back here. Setting up the touchless feature. The touchless feature has three components. The first one are the QR code settings, the QR code position, and then editing responses. So if you haven't already done so, to get to the touchless option, you would go into your kiosk, you would click on the touchless/QR code button, and then you've got a pop-up with the exact same settings. The first piece are the QR code settings. So the first thing is the scan action. This is the action that occurs when the customer scans that QR code. The button selection option is the button that you attach to your touchless experience. This is linked to the QR code, which will either opt in or check in a contact, again, depending on the experience. The SMS keyword helps you choose between creating the keyword, or I'm sorry, generating the keyword or the word QR along with a security code that will appear on the contact's mobile phone. If you want to hide the keyword, maybe this is a keyword that you created specifically for the kiosk and maybe you visually don't like it, or you just don't want people to know that that's the keyword for it, by all means, use the QR option because, again, it will just show the letters QR instead of the keyword. The primary screen displays the selected button to the kiosk main screen. So basically, it's giving you two options. Do you want the customer to only see the one button that you choose, or do you want them to see the kiosk main screen, which in the case of the loyalty kiosk that I've designed, it actually has two buttons. This will give the customer the opportunity to choose which button they want to use. And then finally, the security expiration. This is the amount of time before that QR code on your kiosk resets. We do recommend that no more than 2 minutes be selected to prevent misuse. And so here again, these are all of the settings, and this is just a nice quick breakdown of what all of those different features mean. Now what we're going to do is actually go more in depth at these options to get a better sense of what options you have and which one is going to make the most sense for the setup that you're looking for. First off, the scan actions. As you saw, you have two options here. You have send SMS message and you have launch web link. The scan action determines how the responses will be sent to the customer. So what that means is if you choose the send SMS message option, all of the responses from the touchless feature will show up as text messages on the customer's phone. If you choose the launch web link, it means that the responses will appear on a web page. Visually, what that looks like in the SMS response, here I've chosen my keyword and here's a secure code that came along with it. I hit send and this is the response that I get as a text message. If I were doing the exact same process in the web link, you'll see it is the exact same message that's appearing, but visually it's obviously different. This is a text message, and this was on a mobile web page that I received as part of my checking in or opting in process. So when you choose the send SMS message, what that's going to appear as for the customer experience is they're going to take their cell phone, they're going to scan the QR code on the kiosk. It will automatically populate the messaging app with either the word QR and the secure code or the keyword and the secure code. All the customer needs to do at that point is hit send, and that action is complete. Then, as we saw, the customer will receive a text message or they'll receive the response on the web page, depending on how that's set up. So here again, when you choose the SMS keyword, QR code is going to quite literally just use QR and our secure code. The keyword option will generate a keyword that is linked that you've chosen from that button selection section and the secure code. In either case, the process will be the same on the customer side. They'll get the corresponding text message. So you see here, my scan action, send SMS, In this screenshot, we have SMS keyword is set to the keyword. And so it will populate that. What that ultimately means is that the customers will receive 2 sets of text messages when using the send SMS message option. The first is the message response pertaining to the touchless feature. So like we were showing, the thanks for joining message, if it's a welcome message, that was something that is tied to the touchless experience. Then the system recognizes that this is the first time that the customer has received has opted into the program. So as a result, it also needs to send the 001 message. So here's an example of what that would ultimately look like. Again, we've got our keyword, our secure code. This first one is the touchless response. The second one is the 001 message from the campaign. So again, it's something to keep in mind if you want your customers to minimize the amount of text messages they're getting. You may want to go with the second option, the launching the web link. It's also a good thing to keep in mind in terms of the experience. So you want to say, thanks for joining, or remind them that they've joined. But if they're going to receive something like that as part of the touchless experience, you might want to modify your 001 message so that they don't receive 2 of the exact same message, which will probably be a little confusing. They might think, oh, I received double messages. So something to keep in mind if you choose the send SMS option. The launch web link option, instead of it generating the messaging app and putting in the code and things like that, instead it actually will generate a URL that once you open will give you the option to fill out whatever information is necessary. This coincides with the primary screen component, where you have 2 options. The first one being selected button only, the second one being show main page. The selected button only opens a page where the customer must put in the necessary information to complete the process. If you were using just a simple loyalty button, then all they would need to do is put in their phone number. If, however, maybe you were doing data collection, they might have to fill in additional information such as a birthday or a first name or whatever other information you're trying to collect. The main page, as I mentioned briefly before, this is where the customer opens that URL and now has a button or multiple buttons, depending again on the kiosk setup. So here's an example of what it would look like if the customer was simply trying to join and you chose to only give them one option on that URL. Here's what it would look like if you were giving them the button selection and giving them the option of choosing loyalty check-in or the join button. So QR code placement. Placement is important for a couple of different reasons. So a lot of this comes down to the aesthetics of your kiosk and how you set up that display. A couple of things to keep in mind. The QR code does not go away regardless of the kiosk page. What that means is, let's show it here. If I go back to my mobile opt-in, so here I've put my QR code on my main page. If I leave it there, then when I go to join and I put in my number, it still is there. And I hit enter. And then even after I've joined, it's still there. In terms of my interaction with the kiosk, that can be very confusing. Why is it still there? What is it there for? There's not a lot happening here. So for that reason, we highly encourage you to use a split screen or the rotating image feature and have either a slide or multiple slides, again, depending on how you want to set that up, where you have a designated spot for that QR code. That way it doesn't interrupt or confuse customers that are wanting to actually interact with the kiosk. So in these examples here, you notice there's a little bar that was created where it highlights what the purpose of this QR code is. It helps eliminate a lot of confusion. It helps draw attention to the QR code. And now that they know what the QR code is there for, they're more likely to engage with it. And if you put the same bar on all of the different slides that you might have rotating through, then again, it looks nice and even and consistent. We will, as part of the presentation, there will be a slide with this bar available, one for Android and one for iPad. We'll make sure that they are downloadable. So that way, for those of you that are, looking to start out, you'll have that. You can obviously make modifications to it, but it's nice because it's got that little bar there for you to get you started. And then just so you can kind of see a difference, you don't have to have a bar. In here, again, we have the loyalty that's going to have our rotating images. And notice here, it just appears on any of the slides that show up on the kiosk. Again, though, you can start to see where not having some sort of information about it starts to make it a little bit confusing. Now, where you ultimately want to put that is, again, completely up to you. So in the QR code position section, to move that around, you're going to hit edit. And then here is a quick way to make it larger or smaller, depending on what you're looking to do. And then you can quite literally move it around, anywhere on your kiosk screen. Ultimately, again, it comes down to visually what makes sense. As long as you can remember, it's not going to go away. It's always going to appear. Once you've got your QR code in a position that works for you, you can go ahead and hit save. Give the system a second. It's going to refresh, and then it will show the new QR code and where it's being located. If you close this, the system will also update on this page, and you'll see it shows up here. If you don't like it, just simply go back in and edit it again until you're satisfied with the position of it. Editing responses. So as I mentioned, when you're using the touchless feature, it will come with its own set of responses that occur. Those responses are going to need to be edited regardless of what type of program you're setting up. Now, how many of those messages, again, depends on how many buttons you're using. And if it's just a simple opt-in program, you're going to have far less than if you're doing a loyalty program. The biggest thing, if you do nothing else to the messages, is to make sure that you remove the little bracket BR bracket or HTML breaks that appear in the messages. These appeared in there to allow breaks to occur on the kiosk, but those breaks do not get taken out of the messages. So if you don't take them out, they'll show up in a text or they'll show up on your web form. So you want to make sure you take those out. So here's just a sample of what that looks like. If you see it in red, that means the message has been edited. If it's in blue, that means it hasn't. So again, let's just kind of walk through this. Editing response, very, very simple. Let me go to my loyalty one because there's a few more in there. Okay, so let's see here. Let's show main page. There we go. So in this example, I'm actually getting 2 sets because I've chosen to show my main page, and in my Kiosk setup, I created 2 sets of buttons. So they all need to be modified. It's very straightforward here. All I need to do is come in here and take out any of those breaks. Now I can continue to modify the message to my liking, or I can simply hit save and I'm done. One other thing to keep in mind, if you have text messages going out, you want to make sure that you're staying within the character limit so you don't run into any issues on that end. Other than that, it's very simple. Like I said, you click on the message, you take out what you don't want, you add anything that you do want, and then save, and you're all set there. Now we've got our 3 components of our touchless. We now have our different options available to us where we can make our selections depending on the type of process that we want to occur. We have our QR code position that we've now placed in a nicely designed space that we've allotted for our QR code so it doesn't interfere with anyone interacting with the kiosk. And we've edited the responses so that the customers have clean, simple messages that they receive either via text or on a mobile web page. Your setup is now complete. As with all features, we always encourage you to test the setup to make sure that the feature is set to your liking. That way, again, you can see if you like your double messages or if you want to make any changes to those and things like that. But after that, you should be all set.
Hi, everyone. This is Omer. I just wanted to chime in here real quick before you all jump off. Juliet, thank you. You did a fantastic job on that presentation. It was very clear, and it was so clear that there's no questions in the chat. So no, I thought it was great, and both you and Lori have done a fantastic job with these workshops. I just wanted to chime in that sometimes there's a question about the whether to use the SMS option or the web link option, and which is preferred, and it really comes down to the consumer experience of scanning that QR code. Sometimes people are traditionally used to a web page launching when they scan a QR code. However, the more secure method is the SMS method because it doesn't require the consumer to type in their number, which can sometimes be mistyped. And so when they do the SMS method, the message comes in, we know exactly which phone number it came from, and we're able to issue the response right back. With the web link method, there's just one added step of then typing in the phone number. The web link method will be a little bit more consistent with that kiosk experience because it'll just display the messaging on the screen, on the phone screen, but the SMS method is just a little bit more secure. So those are the kind of the main differences. I don't have any other things to add. I thought you did a great job presenting, and thank you guys all for attending. And of course, we'll send out the video of the recording afterwards. That's all I needed to say. Juliet, you can wrap it up if you'd like.
Okay. All right, excellent. Well, then I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. And if there are any other extra questions, again, we're more than happy to answer. If you don't think of any questions right now, again, you can always email us and we'll be happy to take a look at them afterwards also.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.
Take care, everyone.